Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the 2020 school year. My name is Carla Reyes. I'm your ESL specialist teacher for Prosper High School, as well as Reynolds Middle School this year. So I want to go over my slides with you very quickly. On this slide right here, you can see my contact information for the high school. The best way to reach me this year is going to be via email, Google Chat, or you can send me a text. My cell phone is right there. I very rarely will be in this office because I am pushing into classrooms this year instead of having an ESOL English class necessarily. So I won't be in here very much. And if I am, I'll probably be testing a student. So make sure you email me, use my cell phone to text me or call me. Or you can send me a Google Chat as well. My office is located in what used to be Jolene Vincent's testing office. So I'm in the lower house in the back right corner. So you can find me there if you ever need me. A couple of things about me is I grew up in a small town in East Texas and then went off to A&M. This is my 15th year in education. Of those 15, I've worked with ESL students either as a teacher or as like a campus lead for 13 years. This is my 7th year in Prosper ISD, my 2nd year as the ESL specialist teacher for this campus, and my 1st year to be split between 2 campuses. So what that looks like is that I will spend 1 week at PHS, 1 week at Reynolds, and so forth. And I will post a calendar of that once I know what those exact dates look like. A lot of times when we have an ESL kid in our classroom, we assume that they are thinking when really they're thinking. They're very overwhelmed. And they will nod at you that they understand, and they may even smile or they may even say yes. But a lot of our beginner and intermediate students, they just want to be polite and they know not to tell anyone no, and they're not quite sure how to ask for help. So we want to make sure we know who our ESL kids are, and I will get those lists to you as soon as we have everything finalized. As you can see from this slide, Prosper is growing significantly, especially our EL population. You can see 5 years ago, we were just under 300, and now we are over 1,000 throughout the district. Here are some of the acronyms that we use. A lot of these you're very familiar with. So go ahead and pause the video for a brief second and kind of scroll through them and see if you know what they stand for or what they mean or what they're used for. All right, right here we have what the acronyms stand for. A few of them that I really want to point out is the LPAC committee. That's this first one right here on the left. That is a committee comprised of me, a parent, and some administrators, and we just talk about the students and make sure that we are being held accountable as a district and as a school, and that we are servicing the kids as best as possible. And we also are the ones who set the instructional accommodations and modifications for a student. So it's a really important committee that we have here on campus. Also, notice that we are now calling them ELs. This changed a couple of years ago. So they're no longer called ELL, English Language Learners. They're just called English Learners. And then 2 more I want to point out is this one down here at the bottom, BICS, Basic Interpersonal Communicative Skills. And so this is the social language is what we like to call it. And it takes a student about 1 to 2 years to learn social language. That means you may see a kid in the hallway and they can tell you, or they can tell their friends what they did this weekend, what movies they watched, what the movie was about, really simple language. And that, again, only takes 1 to 2 years. What I want to point out is this CALPS right over here in the top right. This is the Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency, and that is their academic language, and that takes 5 to 7 years. So what happens in the high school is if they move here with very little English background, once they're in high school, they're already gone before they really established good, strong academic language. And so it can be a really big struggle for a lot of our students, even if they're intermediate or advanced. And so just be cognizant of what you are doing to help service these students with academic language. Academic language is very, very different from social language. And you'll see that. So you may see a kid, well, they can talk to me about their weekend, but they can't do this math, biology, English, whatever it is, work. And I don't understand. It's because they have not developed the academic language. And also I want you to think about if they may use a translator, a dictionary or Google or whatever it is, but if they did not know that word in their native language, it's going to be really hard for them to understand that word in this new language as well. So just give lots of grace and be really patient with those students. Several of our students also speak more than 1 language already. Some of them speak 3 or 4. Really incredible. In the high school this year, the top 3 languages other than English are Spanish, Korean, and Farsi. So we're starting to see this population kind of change. Last year was Spanish, Urdu, and Vietnamese. And we've had several Korean students move to Prosper High School specifically this past year. There are 28 other languages spoken here on our campus, so there's quite a few. Thought that was kind of interesting. At the beginning of the school year, it's all in a name. It's really important for you to meet and greet the students. Calling roll, if you're not sure about a student's name, this is what's great about Prosper is we really encourage you to greet students the first day of school, greet them at the door, ask them their name, or if you're not sure, if you want to say their name before they tell you, just make sure you find out how to say their name. And if that means you have to write it down phonetically on some piece of paper or your roll sheet, attendance sheet, whatever it is, make sure you make a great effort to say their name correctly. Some of our students do have Americanized names or shortened names, and that's fine. If they tell you that they go by that, then absolutely you can call them that. Just make an effort. I think that means a lot to them and to their parents as well. And also addressing parents on the phone. You can come talk to me if you're wanting to know what culture they're from, what the expectation is when you call home. I'm happy to help you with that. And just be aware of cultural differences and expectations. Not all cultures make eye contact when an adult is talking to them. So it's not that the student is being rude. It's just that that's not what they did in their home country, or that's not what their parents did when they were in the home country. So even though the student has been here since kindergarten, it could be that their parents were raised in the home country, and that's just the cultural expectation that they have set at home. So just be cognizant of that. It could be that the student's just doesn't know how they should talk to an adult because they are high school kids. But I'm happy to help you with cultural differences as well. So how a student looks at you, they may call you Miss instead of Miss Reyes. They just say Miss. And again, it's not that they're being rude. That's just culturally what they do, and it's what they're used to. It's always nice to know what's going on around you and around with our students. So the diversity calendar, we'll send out a couple of things of big events that are going on that our students may be celebrating or remembering, just so you're aware. Here are some of my responsibilities for being your ESL specialist teacher on campus. And so we'll just kind of go over them in this gray circle. I will be the one that's going to identify and notify you of ESL students. That will also be in Skyward. So it'll look like this. It'll have the green A for at risk and the L for LEP, a LEP student. And so I'll provide documentation. We're switching programs this year, and I'll go over that in just a second. But I will notify you and identify the students as they register. I'll also be providing a little bit of pull-out services if we need that, but I'll mainly be pushing into classrooms this year, especially through our English department. But if you teach some other subject and you need help or you have a test, always send me an email just so we can try to coordinate what works best for you. My main focus is going to be our beginner and intermediate students because they are our highest need students. I'll also like to attend your PLC meetings to help you with EL strategies and instructions. I'll keep up with paperwork, compliance, folders, testing. I'll attend the ARDS, and then we'll do some EL professional development to help you be able to teach our EL students. Team leads, I'm going to be sending out a Google form later this week for you to just fill out and tell me when your PLC is meeting, like what days, what time, and where, so that I can try to meet with you as much as possible. So team leads, you'll get that later this week once you have time to meet with your teams and decide that information. Here's how we identify students. When a student registers, they fill out what's called an HLS. It's your home language survey. And so parents fill this out, and any student or any parent that says any language other than English, we now look into that student, see if they're coming from another school in Texas or another school in the nation, or if they're coming from internationally, And then we just kind of go from there. That determines like what steps I take. And so some students we end up testing, or they come with paperwork, or they don't qualify. If they do, depending on this Lost Links testing, it's just a language test that we give students. We mark it in Skyward. And then what's new this year is that we are switching to Success Ed. So last year we used Elevation. And I know some of you are just really smiling about that. But this year we're switching to Success Ed, which is what our SPED department and our 504 services, they already use that. So you're familiar with the paperwork. It's going to go into Eduphoria. So we'll get all of that to you once we get it set up on our end as well. All right, so here are a couple of tips that you can use in the classroom. Something that is huge for students is that you model what you are doing. You've got to model. So if you say turn to page, you can use your hands and act like you're flipping the pages in a book. You can grab a book. Just make sure the page number is written on the screen, the board, whatever it is, but model what you want them to do. If you want them to turn in paper, it's okay to walk across the room and put a piece of paper in the tray or the box or whatever it is that you're using. So model what you want them to do, even the basic tasks. Yes, they're going to look around for student feedback, but it's really great when they can just look at the teacher and get the instructions that they need. So getting a computer, opening a book, turning something in, just little things like that to model what you want them to do. This will be really important when you're doing labs and science as well. Another thing is to use tons of visuals and very few words on your slides. And I think that's really good for all of our students, not just ELs, but anytime you can make a picture, a graph, or a chart, or label something, it just makes it easier for them. I also like to color code things. So this blue box with information would go with the words that are in blue. And if I had something about land in green, I would make sure the words were in green as well. So keeping things simple, but also using that academic language. It could be that you use academic language and then next to it you put a simplified vocabulary word. That's going to help EL students. It's going to help our SPED students. So just be thinking about how you can differentiate even your presentations. And giving them access to those presentations is really important as well. So many words, so little time. So you want to incorporate your essential standards, your vocabulary words into your essential standards that you may have posted on the walls, your word wall, whatever it is that you're using. We want them to have that academic vocabulary. We want them to master those things because that's what they're going to see on STAR test. SAT, ACT, we want our kids to be successful taking those tests as well, but also in the classroom. So using graphic organizers, word wall, anchor charts are awesome. Labeling things in your classroom is really, really helpful as well. And they're just graphic organizers. You can Google and find a ton of these. So these are just examples. And just a reminder that all subjects can use are writing. And so to use a writing graphic organizer of some kind to help guide that EL's thinking. And that could be with sentence stems. It could be with fill in the blank if they're a very beginner. And a lot of the online textbooks that we have now have things for EL specifically. And then oral language, giving the students time to listen to other kids in their class as well as to speak on their own so that they are practicing speaking, listening to others, and putting ideas together. And it's always important to randomize and rotate. We want them to participate. And so many times we feel so sorry for them because it's so hard to be here if they're a beginner, but we want to push them and to encourage them. So a couple of different ideas is you can tell the student what you're going to ask them in advance so that they can go ahead and have their answer prepared. Or you can give them simplified questions. You can give them answer choices that maybe you're not giving other students, but you give the EL. Just little things like that. But we want them to participate in group discussions, class discussions, and all of that to the best of their ability. These are some, this is feedback that a student gave, and how can teachers help students who are in the early stages of learning English? And so this is from two different students to use the Google Translate and Duolingo. So I've got I'm covering up that one. Sorry. Duolingo is a little app that they can use or web-based, and you can learn different languages with it. It's really great. And then in yellow, I have more chance to talk in class. But if a teacher asked me to answer a question, well, I would fail, but she would understand that I'm struggling and I need help and explain me real quick. And also teachers should watch international students in class for their behaviors to see if they're struggling. So I just thought that was interesting that was student feedback. What do you do if you have a non-English speaker in the classroom and I am at a different campus? Please send me an email. The counselors and the registrars are going to let me know, but there could be that one put English on their home language survey because they were scared they might get in trouble or they didn't want to be different. And so there are things that I can do to help that situation. So if you feel like you have a non-English speaker in the classroom, please let me know ASAP so that I can look into it. This happened last year, and it turns out that the student didn't know very much English and just didn't want to be different or was afraid he was going to be put in some other campus or something. And so his teacher luckily reached out and we were able to get him the ESL services that he needed because he was using Google Translate to talk to his teacher to ask to go to the bathroom. Well, that's a huge red flag that we need to know about so that I can research into that and get that student help. So please let me know. Also, please make sure that you have asked them if they know where they're going to their next class, maybe assign someone else in the class to walk with them, or if you're going on conference, maybe you could take them. These students, most of them have not been in a school this large. And so it's really important for us to make them feel comfortable and confident in where they are going. Also, please let them use their cell phone if they're using it to translate or to talk to you. They may want to do that because they don't know how to ask where their next class is or where the restroom is or if they need water or lunch money or whatever it is. So please allow them to use their phone for translating purposes. We want ELs to fit in and they want to fit in as well. So learn who they are, but please don't call them out or embarrass them in any kind of way, just like we wouldn't do to any of our other students. Here are some of our ESL resources that we have. In red, this Dispelling Misconceptions here in blue was one of our book studies this summer, and it's really, really good. It's easy to read, but just kind of goes through what we think we're doing or what we think is correct and in actuality what it really is. And so it was a really easy book to read, and I highly encourage you if you're looking for more credits to earn for you to read that book. And one more source that we have for you is LanguageLine. I used this a ton this past spring for e-learning, but we've used it for ARDS and other things in the past as well. So what you do is you just call this number and you ask for a specific language. They give you a translator, and then that translator then puts you on hold, calls the number, and then connects everyone. It's very easy to use. I'm happy to show you. I'm happy to jump on a call with you. They want to be communicated with as well. So we want to make sure that our EL parents know what's going on, that they also get compliments on their student. And so make sure you're using LanguageLine or that you reach out and let me help you use it if you would like. And just a little quote, it's not our differences that divide us, it's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, my contact information is on that first slide, and I'm happy to help you. I hope you have a wonderful year. Go Eagles.